Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. As a series of our group ride, this week we're doing the Heroes Ride in North Texas. It's a grand fundo that's organized every year to honor officers who died in the line of duty protecting us. So we show up about 7 o'clock in the morning. That's when they open.
On-site payment. That's not us. Online pre-registration.
We registered online, which whenever possible you want to do that because you get a discount and you guarantee to get a T-shirt and whatever else they're giving. Because it's first come, first serve for the T-shirts.
Good.
So when you do it online, you don't need to bring money.
Cool.
Already paid. You just come, give them your name.
So that's the Wicking T-shirt there. Yes. The green. That's pretty.
Okay.
Well, cool.
So here's
Thank you.
that, and here's your T-shirt.
Okay.
And then you're going to be following the pink route today.
Each route has a color.
Yeah,
so
I got
ours
that.
is pink for 76
this
miles.
thing for?
You definitely want to make sure you know your route because they mark them on the roads.
Okay. Okay.
That's the officer they're honoring that passed away.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
These rides are held all over the country. Forgive the jumpiness. I'm using my iPhone 6S.
Yeah. They
And
have
it's
it
not on a
alphabetically
gimbal or
arranged,
anything,
So where you went happened to be there. I'm just kind of scanning, but that's cool.
As we head out the door,
Like
we
this.
spot Alan and Christian.
Those boys right there.
Hey, you guys decided to show up, huh? How you doing, man?
Good. Nice truck, man.
Huh?
Nice truck.
Oh, thank you.
That's just like yours. You got one like that, don't you?
I sold mine, but that's a 1794, man. That's something else.
You sold your truck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I miss it, and I'm gonna get
Because
another.
you had like bike stuff in there already, the little for the rack and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Alan had a truck like Paul has, and he has
Yeah,
skewers and everything
Yeah, I
mounted
got that one
in the bed. He said he
I
sold
love the
it.
inside
I
color.
didn't know he had.
It's just like
It
a
was
car.
a nice truck.
On the
It has some
inside.
beautiful
Yeah.
wheels on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Christian wanted coffee, but they didn't have any coffee. They just got water. You know, early in the morning like that, they don't have the foods laid out. It's at the rest stops and
We'll
stuff.
get stuff.
So that's another reason, for those of you who saw my video on how to prep, you want to pack your own stuff. And I'm glad I did
All right, what
because
you have over here?
they just got some snacks here, but they
I
got
see.
better foods at the rest. I got bananas, oranges, and you guys will see that. So when you're starting out here, there's nothing at the start.
Yeah,
So
put
you
the
want to
trail
come
mix on.
ready to go. I just took that because I was going to just throw it in my bag. I'm not going to eat trail mix on this
I got a
ride.
number right behind you.
2042.
Didn't want the lady to feel too bad.
That's 21.
She smiled when I said that.
21 something.
I didn't put her
They
on
got
camera.
they got trail mix. I don't know. I'm good. I'm good. I brought my own
So
stuff.
everybody's ready. Like
Yeah.
I think Alan said he had breakfast already. It's been a long time since I've ridden in this area. I've done some of the roads in the past. When I used to race, we would drive out and do some of these roads, but not the entire course. It ended up being a very, very challenging ride. It got our juices flowing, so Paul and I are going to start with the regular group rides, visiting different parts of the area, driving and starting our rides in different parts of the area at least once a month when we can, because it was just nice doing different roads, just very long climbs, nothing crazy. I mean, I saw 8-10% briefly. I didn't even get that on film. Alan had difficulty there on that one. He was cramping. So it was a very warm day. We weren't used to this kind of heat because we've had some dry fronts, and it just, the warmth. And this morning right now is very foggy at the event. So the start was delayed so that the fog would lift. I'm speeding this up here because we're just sitting and listening to general announcements about the officers that have passed away and why this ride is held all over the country, the Heroes Ride. This organization, Texas Wheels of Justice, recognizes the sacrifices of officers. They don't only have to be officers from Texas. So the one that was on my band was from Virginia. So that's kind of cool. That's what's going on here. So at this point, we were rolling up to the start here. Some of the guys we used to ride with a while back, the UMC guys, they're participating here as well. We don't particularly plan on riding with them. I'm sure we'll ride alongside them or past them, but we're doing our own thing. We're not going to follow their program because they have a tendency to stop too frequently at every stop. We don't plan on doing that. So that's me rolling up here. Paul has the camera coming up to say good morning. This is the Mustard Man. That's Andy. There's Christian on the left and Alan standing here. And so Alan came in our team jersey. We all used to have these jerseys. I don't have mine anymore. I'm strictly Veloharmony now. So we're going to listen to the guy give instructions here.
So if you keep your eyes down there, you make the left turn, you'll go a little ways and there'll be another arrow. Here's the thing, guys. If you come up to a street and there's not some arrows right there, don't turn. It's that simple. There's no guesswork.
Constance said, really?
There'll be an arrow telling you to turn. If the arrows get you, if you don't like looking at the ground and seeing the route arrows, we got signs, okay? On the signs, it says, if it says all routes, it's just a black arrow, and you are all routes, every one of you. Okay, you all on all routes. Where the routes change, there'll be a blue arrow or a pink arrow or a yellow arrow. There's some signs that have all three colors. It can be very confusing if you don't know what color you are. But if you know what color you are, just look at your color arrow and do what it says. And you won't have any problems. If that doesn't work, I've got 12 motorcycles out here that are going to be running around the course. And they're going to keep you on track. They're going to watch. They all have ham radios. I have a ham radio here. We have what we call net control right here. So we're all dispatched out of the central location. So, guys, you got maps. You got right
That's
arrows,
Christian.
You got signs.
Alan.
You got motorcycles. So I don't want you to worry about getting lost. You're going to be okay.
Andy.
If you do get lost, don't tell anybody.
And that's the Mustard
Okay, because
Man.
this is Mark. So if you get lost, you know, don't tell your friend. They're going to make fun of you.
That's the Mustard Man over there.
Sir? All right, last thing, rules of the road. This is an MS-150 recommended ride. Let's all hear it for the MS-150. Thank you. We've got ride marshals that are wearing the red. We've got police officers wearing police jersey. We've got EMS personnel wearing EMS jerseys. If they think you need some help, then they'll stop and help you out. If you need a sag, then pull over, take your helmet off, hold it in your hand, and one of my guys will come by and they'll call a sag wagon if one's not readily available. And like I say, they all got ham radios, we're all connected, so we can dispatch a sag to wherever we want. If you want to pull over and rest, and you don't want to sag, just if they come up, just tell them you don't want to sag, it's okay. We're not going to force you. Probably one of the most important things on these rides, no earbuds, okay? We don't do earbuds, right? It's just a way to get us hurt. So if you got a speaker or something, that's great, but please don't use your earbuds. Helmets are required. Let's just be courteous, okay? We've got some roads out here that do not have shoulders, okay? It's part of riding a bicycle. I think we all know that. Yeah. Most of them are smaller roads. We do have one road that's going to have quite a bit of traffic, I'm sure, especially with kind of getting a late start. So make sure that you stay as far to the right, you stay single file. And we got plenty of places with shoulders that you can double up and visit. But when you get to those smaller roads, if you would, go ahead and tuck in single file. Try to, it's kind of hard here in the beginning, but especially when you get out there, stay to the right and pass on the left, okay? The ride marshals will direct you out here in groups.
Let's do this.
Kirby, where you at, Kirby? What do you think?
Let's do this.
All right, guys, we're gonna give it 10 more minutes, okay? I know, but we got to keep you safe. That's the main thing. So let's give you 10 more minutes. Let this fog lift out of here and burn off.
Yeah, the fog was very heavy. I definitely was not expecting it. I didn't even have a light on my bike. which is fine. With that many cyclists, I figured I'd just stay in a group.
Riders, the road is yours. Have a good time.
We roll out here. Alan brought his time trial bike. I was a bit surprised because they're a challenge in the hills. That's his time trial machine, the Cervelo P5.
Let's get up there.
So Alan, the boys, Alan and Christian and some of the UMC guys are ahead of us. You can probably see the yellow on the left there. So we're just kind of rolling through the group here. So right here you can see how they mark the routes. We're pink, 76 miles. The blue and the yellow are for the other miles. We got 25 and I think 50 something. So that's how you identify your routes, and those are the same markings that will show up on the corners.
Thank you. Thank you. See those little marks on the side on the road? That's what he was talking about, those little arrows. That's what marks the courses. That's really cool. Yep. Man, my gears just feel easy today. These boys are gonna be in trouble if they start messing around. They're like I borrowed somebody's legs.
You can see the fog is barely lifting. So yeah, that's why the start was delayed quite a bit. Come on this nice little boulevard here.
There you go, my brother.
During the announcements, the guy said use the shoulder wherever possible. Early in the ride, it's not possible as people start to jockey for position. And you guys can see how our numbers are. I used that double-sided tape. In the bottom right, just did not want to stay attached, which is fine because it is adjusting for the movement in your body. Right here, we're rolling up. There's Christian on the right there in the white jersey. He's riding some of the UMC guys. I just go ahead and move on because we're basically here to do our own thing today. I'm not riding with anybody. We ended up getting caught up in the early increase in speed in the ride. It threw us off. So until later in the ride, we really didn't get into our own groove. And you know, we've already talked about it. So in the future, we're just gonna stay on the program. Because I don't mind riding fast, but I don't like to ride fast and then have to hit every stop. That's what ended up happening. So we only stopped 2 times, and in one place we just picked up some food and kept going. So right here, watch this guy on the right. He doesn't even move his head. He's gonna move left without looking behind. Just watch. He just moves left a little bit. Now watch, he's gonna move some more. And he just blocks Paul's line right here. Didn't even look behind once. So I always wonder how they manage to ride that long without getting hit by a car. Because that's the kind of nonsense we hear about cyclists, car accidents. That's the kind of stuff that can cause. If you do that in traffic, you're going to get hit by something if you don't look behind. That's the kind of stuff I wanted to just point that out. You need to look left and right. If you're going to change your position or change your line, it is your responsibility to look before you move. Just like when you're driving your car. That's the kind of foolishness. That's why early in the ride, we pick up the pace, or even at the start, we try to move up to the front. So you don't have to deal with riders like that. Because he obviously is not concerned about his safety. I mean, they just move left like that and not even look to see who's there. Riders can pass you on either side. They can pass you on your left. They can pass you on your right. When you're in the bunch, there's no particular way to be passed. If you're in traffic on the road, yeah, you always pass on the left. But in a group, riders can come on either side of you. So when your line is about to change, you need to look. That's your responsibility. That's all there is to it. Just look. It's not that complicated. It just makes sense. You see these three guys spread across the road. That's just a no-no. They need to close it up a little bit. And they're not even using the shoulder, even though the shoulder's there. So later on here, I'll start using the shoulder. I'm passing people right, left. You can see right here, I didn't say anything. I just moved because they finally moved over a little bit. That's what the guy said at the announcement, to be courteous. So on some roads, when it's narrow, I don't care how big the group is, ride single file. If you want to visit, wait till there's no traffic and you can ride two abreast and chat, so that the other road users can get by. So you see how thick the fog is. The cool thing about this ride is the number of motorcycles they use. I thought that was really cool. It was really nice to see. They're not all the rides have this number of motorcycles, but I think because this is the Texas Wheels of Justice ride, they probably got access to police motorcycles. And the officers are here supporting the ride. It says in their honor. So you can see I'm in zone 2 here, by my heart rate anyway. And you know, the course is kind of easy. I'm rolling up to Allen here. We're finally got to the back there. We're chatting. So there are 2 lanes and a wide shoulder. So really, I'm trying to stay on the line because I'm not really sure what the guys on the right are going to do. I'm trying to stay with Allen as much as possible. The other UMC guys show up, and there's Christian catching up. In a little bit, I told Paul, I said, let's just stay with Christian to see, because I thought maybe they were going to hold some kind of a pace. The ride ends up being early on, very helter-skelter. There's no plan. We pass everybody. We ride away. You know, Paul's not warmed up. His legs was cramping, and different things occurred that we had not really planned on. But on the return leg, Paul and I just decided to just hold the pace steady, and we ended up finishing ahead of a bunch of the people that had to hit more of the stops. There were 6 rest stops on this ride. Paul and I used 2 of them. We stopped at a 3rd one, but just to pick up some fruits, and we took off. We didn't really make it an official start. And that's the way we like to ride. We don't like to stop that often. So the pace in the ride early on here is really fast. It gets faster. The guy on the motorcycle is letting us know to use the shoulder as much as possible. There are a couple of riders here that have a flat already here. So I'm letting people know. You see how close they are to the edge of the road. That's how you do it. You have a flat. You want to stay far off to the side, even if there are not other riders. You don't want to be close to that white line changing a tire. You're not that visible. I'm letting Paul know that the pace is going to be picking up. That's what that tap and point meant. So I'm passing this guy on the right because I want to stay on the shoulder. You know, the motorcycle escort just came and told us to use the shoulder as much as possible. Now look at this guy's knee all to the side like bow-legged pedaling, and it's very low. He definitely needs a higher position slightly. He's not really getting all the power in his legs out, and I'm not sure why his knees are pointed outward like that. Maybe that's just the way he's predisposed. Maybe he just has bow legs, but he could use with a tweak in his position. I see that a lot. I can't help it when I'm riding. I don't go up to people and bother them. But if someone comes to me and mentions they're having a problem, then, you know, tell them to come on in. This lady's got extra long socks on. It's a hot day. Hopefully they're very breathable. It's warm. So you notice I'm looking before I move. That's how you do it. It doesn't take much effort. Just turn your head a little bit. That's the way you ride. I don't understand why people will move and change their line and don't check. It's a very warm morning. Right there, I'm unzipping my jersey a little more. It's warmer than I thought it would be. I have my glasses on the back of my head still because of the fog. I don't need them right now. This guy with the flag is sitting on Alan's wheel, and when they pick up the pace, he's having trouble keeping up. So I'm kind of eyeing him. And I think at a point here I freeze the frame to show something because the pace picks up and a gap opens, and this is how you fill the gap. That's why leg speed is important, because I will show that he wasn't able to stay. He's following Alan's wheel. You know, in a bunch, if you're competing or whatever, that's just something you pick up. You got to learn to know what wheel to jump on at the last minute, especially in a sprint. So right here, my instincts just kick in. I'm watching him and just keeping my eye on where he is, and the speed picks up right there. Alan's about to go. The UMC guys pick up the speed, and I just rev it up right here. Look at my cadence. Boom. Fill the gap. I'm gone on the wheel. And just get up there. Even though it's for a short time, that's why you use the high cadence, because if you have to do this 20 or 50 times, you don't want to be in a heavy gear. So if you notice, I'm staying close to 100. I'm cruising there. And then when the speed changes, I rev it up. And right now, it's early in the ride. We've done 5.9 kilometers, and I'm hitting the bottom of zone 4. So I'm thinking, we're supposed to do 120 kilometers, 76 miles thereabout. I said, there's no way this pace will continue. But it's not uncommon in these kind of rides to at least burn it a little bit to get some separation. I thought that's what the plan was. I didn't realize these guys were going to stop at most of the stops that they ended up doing. So we ended up changing our plans, our strategy later, and just holding a more steady pace and finishing the ride strong. So right here, I'm thinking that we're just going to at least thin the group a little bit and get ahead. And that's why I'm staying here. But this is a lot faster than we should be going at this point. I'm not drafting very closely. It's early in the ride, and there's a lot of people up there I don't ride with regularly. So I'm making sure that I'm staying within my own vision and everything. The road the right lane ends here, so we'll move left. So I'm not depending on anybody up front to guide me. In fact, we end up running into potholes later because people were not pointing out, which is the norm in this kind of a situation. They were not pointing out all the obstacles they should have. When people are riding really fast sometimes, it's hard for them to point at stuff. So that's the challenge. You can tell the road here is rougher. It's extremely rough right here. The pavement looks like it just dropped rocks down. There's quite a few of these that we encountered, especially on the way back. So you can see here, this is a flat road. You might see some miners there. Every time I tap my side, I'm telling Paul it's on. You got to make a move and stay on my wheel. I do that because he's got the camera and he may be framing a shot or whatever. Right here, we're going downhill. But we're outside of the mean start of the ride now. And the terrain, this grade on this road, I mean, as far as the surface, you can see here -2, -3. It'd be a nice, coming back the other way, this road would be a serious grade. But we're going down, it's a long downhill. And when you're going this fast, you don't want to be right on somebody's wheel. That's the guy with the flag again, coming back. The problem is that he's riding beyond his limit. I mean, I can tell. We end up You know, you pass him a few times, you stop at the stop and you see that. And I could tell. He's forcing it too early, trying to keep up with faster riders. And he's mechanically inefficient riding in sneakers. A lot of his energy is being dissipated in the cushioning in those sneakers. And that's the thing a lot of riders don't understand. You don't have to get a cycling shoe, but they're so much more efficient. That carbon sole, you see where I just blow by him here. Boom. 3%. 3% grade. This is what it is. When the grade kicks in, it's hard to get that power. The power is down here. 4% grade. And we're doing 28 kilometers an hour. I'm in zone 4, the bottom of zone 4 right here. We're going a lot harder than we should be going at this point in the race. Like 8 kilometers in a ride. It feels like a race right here. And I was feeling good. I had even mentioned to Paul that my legs felt really good. I rested well this week. I didn't ride Thursday. I didn't ride Friday. Normally Friday I would spin, but I was busy. But I had 2 full days. My muscles were fresh. So it was on. I was feeling good. And where I think I should have paid more attention to how Paul was feeling. Paul said that his legs felt tighter than normal. You know, it's hard to know how you're going to feel on every ride. And this terrain with all the hills up and down. And how hard we were doing it without a good warm-up. I think that was the biggest thing. Because I think it affected Paul quite a bit. His legs were just tight and heavy. Because we really did not roll into the ride. So, you know, right here, you see me on the left. The reason I'm there is, for some reason, I'm going down the hill faster than everybody. I don't want to use my brakes. And since I'm out in the lane, it is my responsibility to keep my eye on traffic from the back. So if you watch, I keep looking back. I'm looking for cars. I don't plan on pulling this group. And that's why I'm looking back, because I'm slowing down now as the grade lessens. And so the guys that are pulling up there in the UMC lead there can resume. I just went left so I wouldn't have to ride my brakes because everybody seemed to be descending so slowly. And I was just coasting. I was not pedaling. So after that descent, my heart rate dropped quite a bit. See another rider rolling to the front. They're riding above their heads and it's pretty clear. It's kind of early in the ride for that. So Paul's behind Andy right now after the regrouping, after that downhill. I'm in front of Andy, just sitting up there. I mean, I didn't have any ill effects on this ride. You know, Alan ended up cramping. I didn't get that on film. I didn't have the camera rolling. But I was well hydrated. Everything just felt okay. It's hard to say how you're going to feel from ride to ride. But at this point, we're going uphill here again. And yeah, it's early in the ride. I'm just riding pretty steadily here. You can see Paul come around easily there, and he's on Andy's wheel. A short while later here, Paul decided to let us go because it was like, he was saying that he was wondering how we're going to maintain this pace for 120 kilometers. You know, it's 10 kilometers in, about 7 miles, and we're riding like this is the end. So we turn left here. On the return, we would go left the other way, coming back. This course. This is Kirk over here. And the group's separating right here. I look back, I don't see Paul. And even though it says 0, this is going up. If you look at the picture, you can see it has a slant. It may not be 1%, but it's a drag. This whole area is up and down. And you can see now the group. We've got maybe 6 riders up here. And Paul has ridden up. So he's used a lot of energy just to come up here. And the thing is, this is going to continue. And if you look at my cadence, it's right at 80, 81. So when I'm riding the hills and it's going to continue, I try to keep my cadence between 75 to 85, or if it gets to 90, that's fine, as long as it's above 75. What that does is I'm using more strength and letting my aerobic system catch a break. Because it's more of a steady output of power. So it may say 0, but it's a drag. It might be 0.7, 0.8. The overlay does not show that, but if you look at that little graphic left of the 0%, you can see it's moved a little bit. It's not at the tail of it. So yeah. So we're holding 28 kilometers an hour up a grade, and this thing went on forever. It's one of the motorcycle guys there. It was really cool having these guys, a bunch of them just riding around, keeping traffic off of us, basically. That was nice to see. So here we're going downhill. And this is where you want to drink, relax a bit, deep breathe, and get ready for whatever is coming next. You don't have to stop pedaling. If you watch me now, I'm pedaling. We're kind of pulling away from Paul here. I don't know if this is where we finally break away from him completely, but I think so. Because now it's going back up. You can see 1%, and it went now it's 2. This is a grade, and then it goes left, and it says 4%. And this guy comes around Paul. I think this is where we ride off. I'm not aware that he's not in the group at that point, because usually he can handle this effort. But he told me that his legs were tightened up. You can see we're down the road. This Cafe de Colombia guy comes around Paul, and then watch him. He's going to just sit there. And this lady's going to come around him. Her cadence is kind of low. She's not going to be able to do that for too long. And look at the Cafe de Colombia guy. He ran out of gas. He was over his head. You see, that's what happens when you overextend yourself. I mean, he can barely hold a straight line. That's what happens. He would have been better off to stay where he was and stay under control, and don't teach your body to ride poorly, because you're not teaching yourself anything good when you get to that state, what we call pedaling squares. That's one reason Paul let us go. We didn't have a good warm-up, nothing like that. You know. So once I find out, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to actually come back. So you can see there is no overlay on this. I did not display the overlay because it would have been showing my stats further up the road, which wouldn't have made sense. So Paul knows to ride within himself, since his legs were tightened up, as he told me. UMC guys, the guys we hit past, came by, so he just latched onto the back of them, which is what you do. And so he's going to stay within himself and ride with these guys for a while. And he's just sitting, just riding. They just happen to be there providing a draft. That's the Cafe de Colombia guy. I keep saying Cafe de Colombia. That was a team, had a jersey like this that was very popular. But his just says Colombia. Those are the Colombian national colors. And he's recovered a bit. And so they came by him. And Paul is just sitting on the back. I think this is Kirk here. Kirk has a bandana on his bike, which I think catches more wind than anything. I don't know why he did that. You can see the fog is still here. This is a control intersection for us. So these guys turn. I'm still further. At this point, I'm riding back, and it's up and down. It's hilly. I'm riding back to find Paul. I just kind of let the other group go and just turned around and came back. I waited for a bit, thinking he was closer, and then decided I would just ride back. So it ended up between everything. It was probably about maybe 10 minutes between, 10 or 12 minutes between us. And I think that's me down there. That's on the left. Yeah, that's me coming back. And I spotted him, so I just do a U-turn. And you can see my stats show back up. Now I'm at the same place where he is. So I turn around. The reason it's saying 41 kilometers, I probably am trying to catch up to them. Yeah, now my speed's dropping as I get closer to them. So when I turned around, they were moving, and it's somewhat downhill. So I picked it up to catch up. And this is flat to down, you know. one of the motorcycles for the race there. They were everywhere. They had a bunch of them. That was really cool. Now we're going slightly downhill. And I just caught up. I think I'll take the camera from Paul here. At this point of the ride is very close to the first rest stop. I didn't pay particular attention to where the rest stops would be because we usually stop only when we need to. And there's a rest stop coming up. We go ahead and keep riding. This road we're on is called County Line Road, and the rest stop is several miles away. This road is in a westerly direction, and it has a lot of nice grades. They're pretty moderate, I think up to like 5.4% or something like that. Anyway, Paul's kind of somewhat recovered, but I could tell that he was not 100% because I've ridden with him long enough to know that even though we went fast early on, he can handle this kind of pace. I mean, I'm in zone 2 right now, and I just basically told him just sit in. His legs are tight; they're tighter than they normally are, which says there's something going on. You know, the body's weird in that you can't really predict everything. So he's sitting in. And if you look at the numbers, man, we decided to. I'm going to send the race dots back. They were late getting here because of the USPS anyway, and they're expensive. I mean, we need about 7 of them effectively, because what I figured is 7 of the tape stayed in place. The bottom 2 corners did not hold, but look at it. There's no wind getting under it. So 3 at the top, 3 in the middle, and 1 in the middle at the bottom is all you need to put a number in that position on those shorts, and they're perfect. And it's easier to do than if we're using the race dots. So we're going to just use the double-sided tape. It's a lot less expensive and it works. So once I get the race dots in my hands, because they were delivered actually Saturday afternoon, long after I needed them, I'm just going to send them back. You know, they're not that bad. It'll be like $35 for 7 of them. And we've got about 12, so I would have to get 2 more if we were going to go with them, but it would just be a little odd trying to do that. Now right here, I'm in the top of zone 3, and then Paul basically can't hold the pace, and that's not Paul.
Man.
Right there. You see me pull up. I'm not really trying. I'm just at the top of zone 3, which is like tempo, just getting into zone 4. And we ride in this zone all the time. So he's not himself today. Something's up, and we're gonna try to figure that out, because he's been trying to backtrack and think about what may have been the issue. But his legs are tied, they're cramping, and he's not really sure why. So we thought, you know, later on after the ride, maybe the warmer was too fast. But this is 44 minutes into the ride, and normally we're just kind of getting into our rides usually. So but still, he's riding way below his potential here. And so I back off the power up there. I figure he knows how to stay within himself. We've walked through enough of these, so I know Paul. So what he's doing is basically gathering himself. He's going to get his breathing under control, and he's going to stay on form and make sure he does not pedal squares or anything. So something's going on with his body, because he can handle this pace in his sleep. So he was not 100% on this ride, and it happens. It happens to everybody in every sport. So I'm up the road there, but I'm somewhat soft pedaling. I'm not riding full gas or anything. I'm holding it a little less than the pace I was holding in front of him, to give him the chance. I know he'll ride back, and so since we're in the hills, I figure I'll just soft pedal as much as possible, and he'll catch back up. So you can see he's dealing with a 2% grade here. Even though those riders came around him, if you notice, he did not change his pace to get on their wheel. You have to know how to stay under control and stay within yourself. So whatever's going on with him, he's just going to find some kind of a rhythm. And that's what he told me. He said the first hour and a half or so, he just couldn't find a rhythm. You know, and that happens. So that's the main thing he was dealing with. So right here, you can see he's pretty close to the back of this group that just rolled past him. And he's doing his best to just stay kind of in contact. It helps to have someone close by to hang on to. And so he's not overdoing it. He's just keeping his form. You know, his breathing now is a little under control. So I just think that I know for a fact he was not 100%, because we weren't going that hard when this happened. So something was going on. And then later in the ride, he started cramping in different areas other than just his calf and other things. So it was just one of those days. He just had a bad day on the bike. It happens. So they're coming near. There is a rest stop up here. This is County Line Road near a road called Rose Road. At Rose Road, you'll turn right. And I'm on Rose Road just twiddling the gears. So I know he's close. This lady says something to him. I can't make it out.
Yeah.
I think she asked him if he was okay. So Alan Christian and the rest of those guys are at this stop where you see it says rest stop on the left. We didn't need to stop. 24 kilometers, we don't need to stop. We usually stop in the next hour. Like at the 2-hour mark, we stop. So that's the pace we're on. That's what we normally do. So he's just turned right on the road called Rose Road. And I'm up there. That's me. When he turned, I spotted him. And Mr. Matter of Fact up here, listen to what I said to him.
Man, I'm getting tight.
Just relax, man. You're thinking about it too much. Come on. Relax. You can handle this stuff. They stopped over there. Let's go.
I told him to relax. He was thinking about it too much. Just to encourage him.
That was 5.4. That's like the overpass,
Yeah.
but it's a little longer, and it's very deceiving. It creeps up on you.
I really like
go
this
ahead
road. It's
and,
quiet.
You're on the big chain ring?
Yeah.
Just find a gear.
Yeah.
You gotta use more strength.
Yeah.
Start now. Just put it in a gear. Let your cadence go a little below where you normally spin. Drop it by 5. You're gonna use more muscle strength today. Let the RPMs go down. That's okay. Work on strength. Come on. That will settle your heart rate. Feel the gear. You don't want to be bogged down, but you want to feel it. You don't want to float. Okay.
So what I'm trying to do is just get him to do something different than what he's been
You hit the
doing.
next rest stop.
So that he can get his mind off of what has already happened and focus on what's to come.
You okay? All right. See what I'm talking about, Paul? You want to feel that gear, bring your heart rate down, and use more muscle strength. Not too heavy, not too low, just right. And then when you're riding, if you feel like spinning, spin, that's fine. But when you start getting tired, use strength. sunshine.
So we turn right here on FM 1097, and we're headed more in a northeasterly direction. And I'll show you in a little bit here. These are the kind of signs I look for. You see right there, the state has put up a sign. Basically it says caution bicycles. And they do that on roads that are heavily traveled by cyclists. I think that's really cool. There's a nice shoulder on this road. Very nice road. It's got lots of different grades. Nice rollers. I tried to remember all these roads because since we're only 30 minutes away by car, we're going to try to incorporate this course into our ride when we do the Rafa Festive 500 this winter between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. We can get some of this terrain in our legs. That was my reasoning for trying to remember all the roads and see which ones were quiet, busy, whatever. And we ended up starting this ride later than normal, so now it's well after 9 o'clock. So these roads are a little busier than they would be had we started earlier. So when we come out here to do our own thing, we'll probably roll out about 7:30 thereabouts. I mean, depending on what the weather will be doing in the winter, probably colder and so forth. So we hook up with these guys that came by because their pace is very amenable to what we're trying to do, staying under control. So when you're doing these kind of rides, or any kind of ride, if you can find a group that is close to the pace you want to do, then you definitely want to stay with them. There's a part of the ride, Paul and I were discussing, I'm looking over what we could have done differently and so forth. This is a group we should have stayed with because the pace was right along the lines of what we needed to hold because Paul was having difficulties today. I ended up going with Christian and Alan, and then Paul falling off the pace again. And the good thing on this section was that he and I had already agreed about what rest stops we're going to hit. So, we have an understanding. I know he's going to keep riding, but it just would have made more sense to stay with this group because the yo-yo effect of going hard and waiting for somebody to catch back up, it just didn't make sense to me. And here comes, that's Alan and Christian. Christian's behind Alan. Alan's in front on his TT bike. And they're coming up. And so they get in here and then the pace changes and it goes faster. And that's when things kind of break up. So they basically broke up the group. And I think I should have just stayed with this group and just been more consistent. The fact that Paul was having a bad day. And that's about what I would change. It's just I should have stayed with this group and just work with this group. Because we're not maintaining. We'd go hard and then we'd wait. We went hard to the rest stop, we waited. So I like to just go. If I don't mind accelerating, but once I get a gap, I want to hold it. What's the point of that? Of stopping again? So plus the camera was back here, so if I had just ridden off, there would be nothing, to teach per se. So it just didn't make any sense. But Paul was definitely below his level on this ride. So we'll try to figure it out, and everybody has a bad day. I've been there myself. Been on rides where I could barely hold 18 miles an hour. Couldn't figure out what it was. Turns out I had done too much work that week, and my body was just tired. So you can see here we're pulling away from Paul. Because Christian and Alan are at the front now. You can hear Paul's breathing is changing. That lady that had been pulling, she's very experienced. She pulled out of the line. Right there, I decide, because Alan's getting gapped too, because with a time trial bike, he can't accelerate as quickly. So I go around Alan right there and get on Christian's wheel. I just kicked out of the saddle. That's what you do when you're going hard. Just stand, you change the pace, and sit back down. And so that's what I would have done differently. I would have kept this group together, because it just, we're scattered all over the road. We could have been working together. So I'm not going to do that again. Next time I'll just let them go and stay with the group. So at rest stop 2, that's our first rest stop we had planned. We stopped. We've been there for a while. Paul is
Time we
only
stop,
walking
I
over
need
there.
to change the card.
And when we stop, we put on our cleat covers, because you see all the dirt over there. When you walk in that stuff, little pebbles and stuff. You see this lady cleaning her cleat? She doesn't have cleat covers, but she's smart enough to clean it. Otherwise, it gets in your pedal and it can jam it. It's just a pain. Grind down your cleat, whatever. So I already got my cleat covers on. Paul has his on. We always take that with us for this reason. I don't want anything in my cleats. And the cleat covers did their jobs. I don't use the cleat covers when we do our normal riding, because we stop at convenience stores and so forth, and it's all paved. But on these Sportifs and Grand Fondo, yeah, we use them. So we resume riding here after the stop. Alan is up there. Christian is up there. We're going on a road here called Dabney Bottom Road. Very quiet road, off the beaten path.
Go ahead.
That's the shorter route, the 50 miler. He went right. We're doing the 76 miler till we go left. I called car up because we got a bunch of guys behind us. The entire UMC team is following us. And you can see this road. A lot of different surfaces on here. See all the guys behind us. I called that car up so that we wouldn't take a tight turn back there. Even though we're not riding together necessarily, we're on the road at the same time. So if you're ahead, you need to call out obstacles. So I ride up to Christian here and just sit on his wheel. back here is very rough. There's a lot of unevenly patched potholes. You know, it's a minor road, so it probably doesn't get the same care and maintenance that the major roads do. The benefit is it's a lot quieter, but you have to kind of pay attention. And I've already decided after the breakup of the group back there on 1097 that I wasn't going to participate in breaking up this one. You know, just gonna try to keep things together because I didn't know exactly where the next rest stop was, but I knew there was one coming up, and we were not planning on using that one. So Christian is just riding again. He's at the front, and it's a decent pace. But right now, this is a tolerable pace. It's still zone 3, but it's flat right now. It makes a difference when you're going uphill in the wind. More uphill per se. So I'm not sure if it's here, but at some point Christian starts to pick up the pace. I think maybe it's after this car. Because when it happens, I go around Alan, just out of instinct again. That's the road racer in me. Because once there's a gap, I close it. I don't have to think about it. I just do it. And then a little while later, I realized same deja vu again. And I just told him I'm going to wait for Paul. Because once I realized we had broken up the group, because I kept my eye on Paul. He was there for a while. Christian wants to chat here. I think he's calling me up. He likes the way the trees come over the road.
Yes, very nice. This is pretty. Very, very nice.
So Alan gets to the front. It's a pretty good pace. I mean, almost 30 kilometers, somewhat flat. So I put the camera down to get a different angle. I'm messing around. Get the camera close to the ground. And Alan slows down a little bit. I think this is shortly after Alan pulls here that Christian comes around. At this point, the group is together. Everybody's just kind of riding along. I think this is where Christian pulls up to the front. And right here, I can I see the gap over and just look. You see what I saw. And I'm watching Alan to see if he gets on his wheel. And it doesn't look like he will. So then I move to the left of Alan, about right here. And I ride up to Christian, and you can see my speed, my cadence is in the mid 70s. This is basically a grade. It's at 1%. It stayed and it got steeper. So I ride up to Christian here and just kind of sit on his wheel. I'm thinking this is it, but then every time the road went up, he went harder. And I kept my eye on the group right there. I turned the camera back to see who's there. Right now, I think it's just 4 of us. Paul is behind Alan, and Alan's behind me, and I'm on Christian. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, we've done it again. We've broken up the group. But I figure, okay, if Paul's here, we'll just keep riding. Because we already had talked about just going more consistently through the ride instead of yo-yoing. Christian just presses on. I'm sitting in. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm in zone 4. And that's the key. If you're riding behind somebody, you can't see a car that's coming because you're going so hard, maybe it's time to let that person go. You should have your wits about you. You should never be riding to the point where you're not aware of what's happening around you. You can't see potholes or anything. That's just not the level you should be riding at. As you can see, I'm close to Christian, but we're going up a slight grade here. So I figure I'll just sit there. At this point, I don't know if Paul is still with us or not. I think this is about here. I went ahead and back off the power. Because I think Paul had already fallen off around here. So I back off the power. I think the gap begins to open somewhere here. Because I'm not sure where the rest stop is. It really didn't matter. We weren't planning on using that rest stop. So I wasn't riding to the rest stop per se. I don't remember following Christian this long. So it's funny to see it on the screen. I thought I pulled off a lot earlier. So that's probably why we had to wait for Paul. So we passed another rider here. He's doing the long route. See the grade is 6%. It goes from 6 down to, right now it's saying 4, but this entire thing is a grade. At this point, I think it's just the three of us, Christian, myself, and Alan. And then somewhere here I look back and decided to just wait for Paul. Yeah, right here.
Go ahead.
I told Alan to go ahead. I'm gonna wait for Paul.
We lost those guys.
So Alan said he was gonna take a break. Then he comes around me, and I just decided I'm gonna wait for those guys. I didn't realize we were gonna come to another 5% climb here, because that's not where you want to slow down. I'd slow down quite a bit to look behind to see whether we're. It turns out the rest stop is right around here at the stop sign. So I turn here. We had not planned to stop
We don't need
here.
to stop.
Christian has already stopped. Alan's there.
Well, it's rolling, but we need to keep rolling.
So I'll go ahead and do a U-turn. But Paul's not there yet. My plan is that as soon as he gets here, we just keep going. I don't want to stop for another 10 minutes or however long these guys are going to stay. I think that's Paul right there.
Good job, man.
Yeah, as Paul comes around the corner.
He was on.
Yeah, Paul wasn't that far behind, because there he is right there.
Gianni Bunyo.
And these guys
Car.
are standing in a row.
Christian, car.
So I'm telling Christian there's a car coming. There's a tendency, because it's a rest stop, it's still a highway. You can't just stand there. So I'm in the grass here, and I see
Grab
that
two, Paul.
Paul's grabbing
Grab
some
two.
bananas.
Yeah.
So he's grabbing some food. And he's just going to grab and we're going. We're not sticking around here. We had just stopped back there. There was no reason to even stop here. So we just basically head out.
Don't step in the dirt over there.
Paul got some pickles.
I told him, I said, I'm stopping to wait for you. I didn't realize it was just the three of us. Christian was pulling. I was following. Alan was behind. Then I looked back. Nobody. Well, as the road got steeper, he went harder. And I'm trying to get a good shot with the camera. I'm like, enough. Turn this off.
So right after here, we just jumped on the bike right there. We didn't sit at that stop very long at all. We hadn't planned on stopping there anyway. But they got caught up with us at the next stop, which was our scheduled stop. And after that, we didn't see them again. After rest stop 4, we basically passed them because they kept stopping at the other stops. I don't know how many stops they used, but they used at least one more stop. We didn't stop again. And at this point, we're basically heading in, and they're behind us at this point. I just wanted to take some shots of the beautiful roads that we rode on, give you the different experiences we had. You can see how well paved they are. There was one little stretch at the end that was a little rough.
Use your left
Most of
hand
the roads are nice.
like I'm doing, so you can shift. And see, that's the combo. Hold over your left.
So Paul takes the camera here. Basically, we'll do a switch here. And at this point, this is the 3-hour mark. So at about the 2-hour mark, the last stop where we stopped to get some bananas that you guys saw, Paul started feeling better. Because even before that stop, he was the last one to let us go when Christian took off. So he was warmed up. But at the end of the ride, he started having some cramps. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And he was well hydrated. We couldn't really put our fingers on it. But at this point, he's riding well. He's settled down. He's got a good rhythm. And so he's got the camera, and I'm just staying on the white line because this is a narrow road and it's fairly busy. There's really no shoulder. This is pretty much how you ride a road like this that's busy. There's 2 of us. I think I stayed on the white line so you have a bit of a draft on the left side. You see how beautiful these roads are. There's nothing out here. It's pretty, beautiful country. What an adventure. Just get on your bike and just check things out. Just feel so connected. The experience is totally different than being in a car. Just can't explain it. It's not even close. I'll be in a car and go places I can't remember. On a bike, one time I remember everywhere I've been. We did so much climbing on this ride that my feet hurt. Felt like I was doing leg presses. 542 meters of climbing. That's 1,700, almost 1,800 feet. We don't do that much climbing usually. And yet more climbing.
The last hour of Grand Fondo, Paul was cramping early. Alan was cramping. Up and down all day. And the wind. Who said Texas didn't have years? Feel it. Feel it in your legs. Come on, Flatlander. Ride these hills. Ride it like you stole it. 16 miles left. Almost 60 miles. And that number is the business. The right bottom side looks like it's loosened a little, but it's holding though. Yes.
I saw it in New York.
right here. I'm just gonna stay in the same gear and make my legs hurt. Shift up, I'm back on, let's go. Keep the legs going, they'll recover. See how I got the camera on my left hand? And so even when I'm behind you, it's not behind you. This hand.
Right here, we go by the final rest stop there. We don't need it. We've got about probably 15 minutes or so left in the ride. Our bottles of stock. And this is where we wrap things up. I mean, the rest of it was pretty routine, so we turned off the camera. This was the rough road that we got on. It was just paved. It wasn't smooth. Had an okay shoulder, but the surface was rough. So hope you guys got a chance to get out and get some miles in. This is what we did on Saturday. 76 miles, 120 kilometers, thereabouts.